Over 1 million cinema lovers have already subscribed to Film Companion. What are you waiting for? Hit the bell icon and join our film family.
Another week, another major Bollywood star makes their official streaming series debut. Last week, it was Madhuri Dixit Nene in Netflix's The Fame Game, and this week, it's Ajay Devgn in Disney Plus Hotstar's Rudra, The Edge of Darkness. The official remake of British crime drama Luther starring Idris Elba, Rudra follows Rudravir Singh, a rogue officer within Mumbai's Special Crimes Unit who specializes in being able to tap into the psyche of psychopaths and think like the killers he's after. In each episode of the 6-part series, we see him and his team solve new murders and track down the worst of the worst of the worst. Quick disclaimer, I haven't watched the original British series, so I went into this show blank, and I don't know to what extent they've changed or adapted the larger story or the specific cases and killers of each episode. That said, Rudra is the grand event star-driven pulpy crime drama done mostly right. For one, it's the tropiest of tropey crime dramas, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Rudra is by no means trying to reinvent the wheel. It's basically your typical tortured cop profiler chasing killer show that we've seen time and again internationally, except this time set in Mumbai, and it works well. These are all too familiar winning elements. You've got the violent serial killers, a tense race against time to track them down, and the no-nonsense cop who refuses to play by the rules, willing to go to any extent to get the bad guy. For me, the best thing on offer here is the different case each episode structure, so that even if the other elements of the overarching story or the characters don't always work, there's always a new unhinged killer around the corner to renew our investment and keep us hooked. Writers Hussain and Abbas Dalal and Ishant Trivedi give us genuinely threatening, theatrical Dexter-style psychopaths, all of which offer the necessary shock value and tense cat-and-mouse chases. At their best, some of these stories are rooted in humanity and have you empathize with them beyond their scary psychoness. Be it the misguided, brainwashed soldier on a murderous rampage or the insecure husband who snaps, and beyond. Fair warning though, Rudra certainly isn't for the faint of heart. It really goes all in on its adult rating. These are mass murderers and child killers. In one episode, this cult leader serial killer dude straight up drinks from a flask of blood. I swear this show ticks so many boxes of hyper-violence and uncomfortable gore that they might as well have called it Trigger Warning, The Edge of Darkness. Rudra is powered by the piercing presence and pure swag of Ajay Devgn, who's very well cast here as a gifted rogue officer trying to track down new nutjobs while trying to outrun the consequences of his actions. The show is in many ways the perfect star vehicle for his streaming debut, and director Rajesh Mapuskar does well to capitalize on his inherent intensity and haunting glare that feels like it can see into the soul of his suspects, especially in those interrogation scenes. Though Ajay Devgn works better in his heady, stoic silences rather than in certain loud scenes where he explodes with rage, which are just jarring to watch. Also, every time he loses it, he seems to break or throw or punch his way through furniture. You could legit do a supercut just of him tearing through furniture. It would be like an IKEA commercial, except in reverse. It's also got to be said that nuance certainly isn't the focus of this series. It's a strictly surface level show, which is fine, but there are moments of dull writing where characters explain who they are. Like in one scene after Rudra is benched from a case, he says something like, "But no one else can think like the killers the way I do." It's lazy and unnecessary. In its perspective, Rudra is also a very masculine, hyper-violent show, so naturally, the female characters are largely overlooked. A key part of the series is Rudra's strange, morally blurry relationship with a criminal, Alia, played by Raashi Khanna. What the show's trying to go for is a Raman Raghav, Hannibal, Killing Eve style, mutually obsessive equation, but here not only is their dynamic unconvincing, it just doesn't have the required depth or complexity their arc needs. This despite a sincere performance from Raashi Khanna, who brings some interesting shades to the role of a psychopath. But still, Alia is the show's most underwritten character and the series' biggest failure. Similarly, while it was wonderful to see her on screen again, as Rudra's wife, Isha Deol has a threadbare role, bringing next to nothing to what is supposed to be a broken marriage, and she borders on unwatchable. The entire arc about their marriage and Rudra's personal life in shambles just jerks you out of the series. Like that, when the show doesn't have a cool new serial killer to hide behind, it just doesn't have enough to hold you. Prime example being the flat finale episode, which focuses on Rudra's own story rather than a new case, and just loses steam as it goes in convoluted circles. It's also got to be said that the show has a pretty idealistic relationship with and depiction of Mumbai. Cops zip around the city with such ease on empty roads, and people are murdered in broad daylight in deserted public places. There's one scene where Rudra is in Alia's fancy Bandra flat overlooking the sea link. As she runs out of her building, he chases her, and as soon as they exit her building, boom, they're suddenly in Kolaba next to the gateway of India. Geography, bro. Yeah, maybe in the freaking Matrix. But do you want to know what my biggest unrealistic Mumbai on-screen pet peeve is? It's when characters wear spectacularly impractical clothing. In almost every scene, whether he's investigating or chasing bad guys, Rudra is always wearing a full-sleeve jumper and a coat. Yeah, coat, every time, in Bombay. Is this a gritty crime drama or Narnia bloody fantasy? Despite its rough edges and issues, Rudra ultimately succeeds because it feels like an event. Its bigness is baked into the DNA of the show. It's a show that works best when it keeps it simple. Freaky, murdery bad guys going up against a steely-eyed, unforgiving cop who will always find them and always take them down. That's a show I'd be happy to see more of. You can watch Rudra, The Edge of Darkness on Disney Plus Hotstar.